Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Very excited to have people here and interested about our London First Year Experience program. I'm Kendra Nelson. I'm one of the program managers in Off-Campus Study and Exchanges, which is Skidmore's Study Abroad office. And I'll be leading tonight's session along with Gabby from the admissions office, as well as this experts from London who have already studied in London. But before I let everybody introduce themselves, just to remind you, the meeting is being recorded. I know there's a lot of people that are interested, but maybe couldn't join us right here at this time. So we'll be sharing that link after the session. And there also will be, question and answer at the end. So you could ask me, Gabby, or any of the panelists questions. Make use of the question and answer feature. Is that what we're using, Gabby?
Yeah. So we can use the question and answer feature. If you want to put anything in the chat as well, feel free.
And if we can address those as we go, we will. Otherwise, we'll make sure we go through them towards the end of the hour. But first, I just wanted to, again, welcome you and congratulate you on your acceptance to Skidmore. We're so excited to have you here. So whether you come to campus or you go to London, thank you for, thinking about being part of the Skidmore community. We think we have a lot to offer, and we hope you do too. All right, so just going ahead to diving in, quick thing for tonight's agenda. Hold on. We'll go in here, just a little bit about what we're going to cover. So we'll do the intros, talk about a little bit about the history of the program, get into some of the program details with academics, housing, the admissions process, and then talking about that return to campus for the spring semester. So my panelists, if you want to introduce yourself, I'll have each of you kind of give a short intro, name, your class year, when you went to London, your intended major or your major if you've already declared. And Paige, I'm going to ask you to go first.
Sure. Hi, I'm Paige. I'm the class of 2026, so I'm a sophomore. I'm a political science major and a business and English minor. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys about London.
Annabelle?
Hi, everyone. I'm Annabelle. I'm also a sophomore, class of 2026. I'm also a political science major. I'm from northern New Jersey, and I went to London not this past fall, but the fall before that. I had the best time ever, and I'm also the peer mentor with Paige. We're co-peer mentors for the current students that have returned from London. So that's a really fulfilling part of my life at Skidmore right now, and I'm also so excited to be here.
Len?
I'll go next. I'm Len. I'm a freshman, so a class of 27, and I'm considering being a sociology major with a business minor. I'm from San Diego, which is pretty far away, and yeah, I'm super excited to be here today. So,
And last but not least.
Hi, everyone. I'm Boita. Like Len, I'm a freshman, so class of 2027. My major is psychology, and I went to London as well just the last semester, so it's freshly in my mind, all the experiences from there.
Great. And Gabby, did you want to do your own introduction as well?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Gabby Viaume. I'm one of the assistant directors of admission here at Skidmore. I'm also an alum from Skidmore. I graduated with the class of 2021 and started working in admissions right after I graduated. So super happy to be here. I oversee the London applications as part of my job. So I just want to extend my congratulations to all of you. And again, we're so happy to have you join us this evening.
Yeah, and Gabby and I work pretty closely together. Gabby does all of the admission sides of things. So if you're questions about your offer or confirming or anything, how many spots are left in the program, those would all go to Gabby. If you have questions about day-to-day life in London, what things are like, courses, housing, visa process, any of those types of things, they would come to me. And then once students commit to the London program, then you'll start working with me on all of the forms you submit and all the pre-departure information that you would need to review before you would go. So just kind of an idea of the breakdown for responsibilities there. Just kind of diving into the history of the program, the London First Year Experience is a longstanding program at Skidmore College. Fall 24 will be our 23rd year of the program. We've been running the program since 2001. And since then, we've hosted more than 800 students in London for their first semester at Skidmore. For most of these students, it was just their first international experience as part of their Skidmore College career. Many of them went on to study abroad again. But we know that starting in London puts a unique spin on the time that you will have here at Skidmore. In London, we do partner with another organization called CEA Kappa. They are basically the Skidmore extension in London. So we work with them to provide student support, health and safety structure, courses, housing, all the things that we need to have in London. But that partnership, we work very closely with them to design the program. They're a study abroad company that runs programs all over the world, and then they have their own program center right in the heart of London. And then there's center of staff, they have a full staff there. They run other programs at the same time as the fall semester for our program. So there'll be other students maybe studying abroad as a junior that will be using the same program center, but they do a lot of very specific and dedicated programming just for our Skidmore students on the program. Okay. All right, so why London? This is definitely something that we get a lot of questions about, like starting your first semester of college, but doing it in London. It is a very unique experience. And every student has different reasons for why they might want to do it, why it's a good fit for them. And, you know, I think that this is where I'm going to lean on the panel a little bit to kind of start off and talk about for each of you to say why you decided to study in London for your first semester at Skidmore. Len, you want to jump in? You look like you're ready to go.
Yes. So it was actually, London was my first experience just traveling outside of the US at all. And I really saw London as a chance to experience something new. And I figured, you know, college is already going to be a new experience. Why not just really jump in there and yeah, try something new. So that's why I chose London. It was kind of like a why not. And I knew that if I didn't do it, I would always be like, oh, but what if? And if I did, I would get to have that new experience.
Annabelle?
I totally agree with the why not sentiment. When I learned about when I had my options for where I wanted to go to school, London was kind of like the shining star on Skidmore for me, and I knew that I could study abroad. I knew I wanted to study abroad, but studying abroad sooner was even more appealing, and it was almost like a no-brainer for me. It was, oh, there's this great option, yeah, let's go. But in contrast to Len, I have traveled outside of the country, and I knew that I'd been to London in the past, and I knew that London was going to be a great city for me to start my college career, just because it's very different from the US and areas where I'm from, but at the same time, you know, there's no language barrier, and I knew that I would also be with 30 other Skidmore students, 30 or so other Skidmore students, and then I'd come right back to Skidmore in the spring, and I'd kind of get that best of both worlds going to London.
I can go next. I kind of agree with Annabelle that I've always loved to travel, and I knew I wanted to do that when I got to college, but it just seemed really exciting to do it first thing you got here. And also with the really small group of people, I saw that as an opportunity to get really, really close with the other people in my program and also with the two Skidmore faculty who also come with us. So I just saw it as a great opportunity that to travel and to get close to people at Skidmore who you will also have when you get back on campus.
I think I have it very similar to Annabelle and Paige because I I love traveling. I've done some traveling before, and I wanted to go to London just to have, an adventure and to explore another environment, another set of values, maybe new culture. So that was why I applied.
Yeah, so you can see sometimes some of our panelists have similar reasons, some different, but really is a unique way to start your time in college. And, it could be that you're building on travel experience or something that you already like. It could be your first time traveling, even your first time on a plane. But the program really does work for a wide range of students. Like Paige said, I think, sometimes, going to London makes it easier to kind of form those close friendships right away because you are in a smaller group. Even though Skidmore's a small school, the cohort in London is a lot smaller, obviously. So you tend to make friends faster. You're all going through a very intense shared experience. So you kind of create those bonds that typically last through the 4 years and beyond at Skidmore. Also, there's a lot of fantastic resources in London. It's a great city. There's a lot to do there. It really kind of lends itself to get students outside of the classroom and really experience all that a big city has to offer. We hope that if you're thinking about London, that academics will be one of the things that you're considering as far as why going to London. This really, it is a study abroad. So that study part is key and has a huge impact on your experience. And I would say one thing about, coming to campus, compared to coming to campus in London, we have a much smaller set of courses to choose from, but every course that we do offer will use those resources in London and will get you out of the classroom, maybe except for calculus. That one is mostly in the classroom, but everything else, they really do see the city as an extended resource and as an extended place for you to learn and study. Each class that we offer tends to have at least 4 or 5 different excursions or field trips where you're actually going as a class to somewhere else in London to kind of get that hands-on experience. So whether that's a museum, a library or exhibit, or a walking tour through a specific neighborhood in the city, you really are going to get to explore a lot. Thinking about that kind of structure where you're doing a lot outside of the classroom, I was wondering if anybody on the panel wanted to share a particular class excursion that they found rewarding, whether it was through their Scribner seminar or one of the other courses they took. Vojta?
I really liked our theater outings to the Shakespeare's Globe. I think that was really cool because seeing these like professional actors that just do like Shakespeare plays, that was an amazing experience, and they did it really well.
I have to agree with Voita. I mean, going to the Shakespeare's Globe was just amazing. It was really good shows. I also took a modern art in London class, which I really enjoyed. I'd never taken an art class like that before, but we went on excursions to the Tate Britain, Tate Modern, National Gallery, and also our teacher was like an expert in the field. He had his own like gallery, and so when he would take us on walks through Mayfair, which is like a very um, more upper class section of London where there are a ton of art galleries. He would like see clients on the street or see artists on the street and then like introduce us to them. And it was just that class I really liked because it really involved you with the city in a new way.
I can jump in. Actually, this picture is of us outside the Ben Franklin House, and that was for one of my Scribner seminars, which was the American Revolution in from the British perspective. And those outings were very fun. We went to Ben Franklin's house. We saw the Declaration of Independence that was sent to the king. It was very cool.
And a lot of our classes, they had walking tours, like Kendra mentioned. And so I'd say that I think I had maybe at least one or two outings per week with the courses that I took. But walking tours, I had at least one of them a week. And I love walking around London. I loved learning about the city, kind of getting my bearings, going on a field trip and seeing a really cute cafe and writing it down for the weekend. And I'd go explore with Paige. But I loved doing walking tours. I thought those were the most valuable part of the excursions that we did.
Yeah, so hopefully that gives you a taste of some of that out of class learning that you'll get to experience in London. The way that the semester is structured is usually students are taking 4 classes. This includes one Scribner seminar, which is taught by one of the Skidmore faculty coordinators that go with the group to London, and then 3 additional courses that are offered through the CEA Kappa Program Center, which are designed for first-year students, and again, make really good use of London. Those Scribner seminars for next fall, these are classes that do rotate each year. The Scribner seminars in London follow the same structure as the ones that are offered on campus. So every first-year student at Skidmore takes a Scribner seminar. They're interdisciplinary in nature, and they're just really a way to kind of introduce you to academic life at Skidmore, but also let you kind of take something that maybe is unique to you and something that the faculty that are teaching it are passionate about. You don't need a background in any of the areas to take these classes, but the 2 faculty that are going this fall, Professor Dim from the history department, who's teaching The World Through Maps, the London edition. So she's in the history department, but she calls herself a cartographer and does a lot of work with the history of maps. And so she's really excited to kind of make use of all those resources in London and thinking about using maps beyond just as a way to get from here to there, really getting you to think about how mapping has shaped the world over centuries. And then Professor Mulligan from the International Affairs Department is teaching No Place to Hide, Surveillance in Bentham's and Orwell's London. So looking at the topic of surveillance and how increasing surveillance is gathered and used, both personal information as well as information that's collected across a global city like London. And so trying to kind of look at that, look at the historical contents, look at kind of the push and pull between, living in a free society versus protecting it from harm through kind of that lens of surveillance. So really interesting. Both faculty are super excited to be going to London. They've been planning this. They have a lot of great field trips and outings already planned. I think they're probably just as excited as the students that are going to be going. So you're in good hands with that. And both of the professors will end up, whichever seminar you get placed into, that'll end up being your faculty advisor until you declare a major back at Skidmore. So they go with you to London, they'll come back with you in the spring and be your advisor until you declare a major, typically as a sophomore. Does anyone on the panel want to talk a little bit about what the relationship is like between the Scribner seminar professors and the students in London?
I can definitely talk about my relationship with my advisor. He's still my advisor because I'm a political science major, and that was the class. And I'm so happy that he's still my advisor. He's currently on sabbatical, but he's in his office, and I stop by every once in a while, update him on my life. I like to hear about his life as well. But in London, they're kind of like your parents almost. I definitely think that for our cohort, the 2 Scribner professors that we had were like our London parents, and we'd go to them with our issues. We'd have them teach us, and they'd sometimes take us out for lunch and things like that. And that kind of relationship comes back with you to Skidmore. and you can have that person to rely on, or that person to talk to about academics or personal life or anything like that. And I definitely say that my advisor is one of my like favorite faculty members at Skidmore, totally favorite faculty member at Skidmore.
Yeah, I had the same advisor as Annabelle because we were in the same class in London. And I think it just is a different bond than the one than one at Skidmore because of the environment you're in. Like you just rely on them and then you come to really like them and become really close. And I feel like if I had just started at Skidmore, I wouldn't have gotten that bond that I feel like I can tell this professor anything.
Yeah. And you do spend a lot more time with the faculty in London because you're not only going to their class, but you're doing different events, different activities throughout the semester. So it is more of kind of a intense relationship compared to if you come to campus.
Can I add on to what's being said? So, one thing that I feel like really exemplifies how your relationship with your this faculty member is going to go is, for example, when I was in London, Professor Andrew Lindner was my advisor, and he took our class out to this place called the London Dungeons, which is like this really hokey, touristy, like really doesn't have that much academic like knowledge to it, but they just scare you and tell you scary stories about London and lead you around this like maze and stuff, and like, but we all did it together, our whole class with our professor, and that was just really a big bonding moment for us. And yeah, I love having our advisors go with us because it means that back on campus, you really do have that close connection with the faculty member, which is indicative of what's going to happen when you're on Skidmore's real campus, because it's kind of an intro to that small college support feel.
Great. All right. So that's the Scribner seminar. Like I said, everyone's required to take one of the two. So you'll be placed into that. And then here is a list of the tentative course options that we're thinking about for this fall. So typically we tend to offer about 7 courses through CEA Kappa. The list for this fall is still being finalized. So it's not always the same each year, but usually we'll offer about 7, and then students will choose to take 3 of those courses. We do a special course registration for the London students. So you do submit your course preferences. We'll have a set day and time in the summer where you'll submit your course preferences to me, and then I will administratively register students in those classes based on their preferences and based on availability, as well as kind of spreading out your classes along the 4 days. Typically, you take classes 2 days a week. So Monday through Thursday, you would have 2 meeting times, usually for 2 hours each, or sometimes some of the classes might be an hour and a half one day and 2.5 hours another day. And then Fridays are not free. They're held for extended class field trips. So there might be some Fridays that you don't have anything to do, or you don't have, none of your classes are having excursions or field trips, or you might have multiple ones on the same Friday. So it is something, if you like, we encourage faculty to use those Fridays if they're going to do something that won't fit within that regular class meeting time. And there's a lot to do in London, so you should expect some of those would be there. Does anybody want to share what their favorite class was in London and why? Voita, I know you didn't get to talk the last time. You want to share what your favorite class was?
I think my favorite was probably the Scribner seminar, actually, because it was a really interesting topic for me. And we went to, I really like this outing. We went to the Freud's Museum because our Scribner professor, Professor Mark Wright, he's into positive psychology. So that's what the topic kind of was in that class. So we went there. So it was really fun. And then I like theater because our professor was just great, and he got to go to theater a lot, which is something I personally like. So I would say these two probably.
I also really loved the theater class. I know I don't know how many theater outings are planned for the upcoming fall semester, but I loved going to see a show. At times, it felt like it was almost every week, um, but it was so great to just get out into London and to go to different parts, see shows on the West End, see shows that were kind of a little bit more obscure, and maybe had a different take, like an all-female cast or something like that. There's so much going on in London that there's such a wide variety of the plays that are happening. And I just loved how that was my class. I'd go on like a Thursday night or something with some of my friends and we'd go watch a play and that was school. That was so much fun. And then we'd write about it, of course, and we'd talk about it. But that was just so cool for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I loved my Scribner seminar in my theater class, but I also took literature and plays, and I really enjoyed that class because we were reading British novels, and I just hadn't been reading those as much, and I really enjoyed the ones that the teacher picked, so I like that class too.
All right. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, let's talk a little bit about housing. So next fall, our students are going to be living in the State Club Camden, which is an international residence hall, right in one of London's like trendiest, hippest, coolest neighborhoods, which maybe now that I've said trendy, hip, and cool, it's not as cool, but it's a great location in central London. So the students that were there last semester lived in the State Club Camden. So hopefully we can hear from Vojta and Len about their experience there. But it's fantastic location right near Camden Market, which is one of the biggest markets in London. Also really accessible by public transportation. So really easy to take the tube, which is the London subway, anywhere you need to go to get into the city. Within the building, students will be sharing a double occupancy room. The rooms are small because it's London and everything's small, but each room will contain 2 beds that are bunked. They'll share a desk. There's a shared wardrobe, a small kitchenette, and a private bathroom in the room. So it really can kind of do everything at once. So study space, small kitchen, bathroom, all the things. But you'll also have all of the space of the residence hall. So there's a lot of common areas throughout the hall, study space, activity space, laundry facilities, a gym. So you really don't have to spend all your time in your room, but I guess you can if you want. And we, as part of living in the residence hall, students will receive a partial meal plan. So you'll be provided meals. It's usually Monday through Friday. You get provided breakfast and then dinner at set times during those days. You'll also receive a stipend for the other meals that aren't included at the residence hall, so lunches and weekend meals, and that stipend is intended to help cover those costs. So that's kind of what you're looking at as far as housing. Len or Vojta, do you want to talk a little bit about what it was like to live in the State Club?
I can definitely say that I enjoyed it. I didn't mind the small rooms that much, even though it's true that they're smaller. I was matched up with a really good roommate, so we had fun time living together there in the small space. And there's a kitchenette in the room, so we had some really fun cooking experiences as well. And then about the food, like I really like the food. I really liked the breakfasts and dinners that we had in the Stay Club. And it was especially the dinners were often really a point when I was like, oh, I'm looking forward to the dinner so much because they just tasted good, at least for me. I really liked that.
So like Voitha, I also had a small room, but I did not mind it at all Part of that is because you are going to want to be out in the city a lot, whether that's for classes or having fun or going and studying at a cute little cafe nearby. So it's not going to feel like you're necessarily in your room that much. So you're not going to feel the smallness. State Club also has a really good basement for like study spaces, and basically like they have library shelves and everything. And we also, people hang out a lot in State Club's lobby because it's also super cute. And yeah, I got matched up with an amazing roommate. I think that State Club Camden is just a really nice place to stay.
And I will say it is, if you look on a map, between where the state club is and where your classes are at the program center, there is a commute. It's usually about 40 minutes, which is a large commute, no matter which way you slice it. But you are living in central London, so you kind of have to think about, any large cities that you may have visited in the past. It just takes time to get from here to there. And students usually learn to build that commute into their day to make use of that time, whether they're reading on the train or they're observing London life. It is something that you do kind of get used to. The program does provide each student with a local transportation pass, so you can use the tube, buses, overland trains, all within central London. So you really can get anywhere, whether it's going to classes or meeting your class at one of the excursions somewhere else in London. But it is something you do kind of, I think, feel like a true Londoner because you kind of have that aspect. And some Londoners would think that a 40-minute commute was actually pretty convenient. You'll have to be the judge of that. Annabelle and Paige, you want to talk anything about, living in London, sharing roommates, or sharing space with roommates, or commuting? Anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I definitely agree with Len. I was barely in my room. I basically just studied in there and slept in there, because if I ever wanted to do anything, I was always going out and going to cafes and out to dinner and stuff like that. So it doesn't really matter that it's that small of a space for most of the time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I only slept in that room. I studied at a library, so I quite literally just came home and slept. But one thing that I'd like to maybe ask Len and Vojta about is, did you get to talk to the other people that are at the state club? Did you make any friends, or do you know of other people that made friends? Because you guys have you had a nice community space with other students from other universities, perhaps, things like that.
Right. So as I was saying, the State Club has a really nice lobby with like a pool table and some like bookshelves and just a ton of couches. So State Club Camden is basically like a community space almost for other students going to uni or other international students. So you will meet so many cool friends, and a lot of them are even from the US or traveling like you, so you can have that shared experience. Also, in just like one neighborhood over in Kentish Town, there's another state club. And so again, it's just like another university student community. And so you make friends with them too. And then you go over to Kentish State Club, and it's really fun. And you make a lot of friends that way.
Yeah, I can only confirm that especially in the lobby, there can be a lot going on, and you can get to know new people. And I know some of my friends, they literally also joined some of the friends group like that were from outside our school, and they started to go out with them as well. So I think there's definitely the opportunity to get to know people from outside the program.
Great. So hopefully we've given you kind of a taste of what to expect in London, whether the classes that you take, where you'll be living, kind of get you that kind of an idea in your head for what that would look like. Talking now a little bit about the admissions and the financial aid process. Gabby, do you want to talk a little bit about admissions and kind of where we're standing?
Yeah, so I actually saw this question in the Q&A about how many spots are left for the program. So for the London program, there are 36 spots available for students total. Out of those 36, we do currently have 17 students enrolled in the London program for this upcoming fall, meaning that there are 19 spots available. A very popular question I get asked about these spots is how quickly they fill. It's different every year how quickly they might fill. All I can say is that as we get closer and closer to that May 1st deadline, they will begin to fill quicker and quicker. So I would recommend doing, if you want to kind of check in throughout the next few weeks on where we are with those spots, just shoot me an email and I'd be happy to give you an update on where we're currently at with those spots being filled. But yeah, happy to answer any other questions as well.
Yeah, and just to let you know, if you call me and ask me questions about London, I won't know exactly how many spots there are. So definitely check in with Gabby on that, and she'll let you know. Also, keep in mind, once you've committed to the London program, there usually is like a lag in the time between when you commit and when you'll hear from me. But I'm trying to shorten that as much as I can. You can always reach out to me with questions about anything related to the program, or if you want to connect with students like our panel, I can connect you with students at Skidmore that have agreed to be contacts about the program. Looking at the finances of the program, so the first thing just to kind of keep an idea is it costs about the same to study in London as it does to study on campus. So students that go to London are still going to be charged for the Skidmore comprehensive fee through the Skidmore Bursar. So that comprehensive fee is tuition, and it's room at the campus apartment rate. So that is kind of a difference between if you come to campus, usually you're in a residence hall your first semester. So there's a slight cost difference between that and the campus apartment rate that's charged for study abroad. We also charge students for the meal plan on campus, and that would kind of translate in London to that meal plan that we have at the residence hall, as well as the stipend that you receive for the meals that aren't provided at the residence hall. But for London, there are also some additional things that are included. So obviously it's all of the program structure, staff, pre-departure support that you get from admissions, first year experience, our office, and our staff in London. But you also get a local transportation pass. You get international health insurance, both from my office, off-campus study and exchanges, as well as our partner in London. So you have a lot of coverage that way. You get advising from your faculty that are going with you to London, as well as our office in the first year experience. You also get support from our program assistant in London, who is usually a student that has just graduated from Skidmore, will actually go and live in the residence hall with the students and provide additional support and programming throughout the semester. You'll have support from our campus London peer mentors like Paige and Annabelle this year. Most of the work that they do is in the spring semester, helping you transition back to campus, but you'll also have their support there as well. So things that you should expect to pay in addition to what you get or what you pay through Skidmore would be things like your flight, passport and visa costs. So some students may have to apply for a student visa, but typically if you have a US passport, you don't need to apply for a visa in advance. It would only be international students. And even then it depends which country you hold a passport from. And that's something you can work with me if you have any questions about that process. And then I usually tell students that they should also budget some additional money if they're going to do extensive travel outside of London, or just for kind of day-to-day expenses, everything from stopping for a cup of coffee, buying some groceries or things like that. So just kind of keep those things in mind. If you receive financial aid, your financial aid can apply towards the semester in London. if you have questions about your financial aid package and how much you've been allocated, you can always reach out to your financial aid advisor in the Skidmore office. But generally, everything that you would get at Skidmore can be used in London. The only real exception is work study, because that's just for campus, not for study abroad. Gabby, do you have anything to add about finances or financial aid policy?
I think you pretty much covered it, Kendra. Again, if you are receiving financial aid, we'll meet 100% of your demonstrated need every single year. And this includes, of course, if you are going to be in London for that first semester. But yeah, I think you covered it.
Does anybody on the panel want to talk about, just general costs, and if they thought what they received between the meal plan and the stipend was enough to kind of support them in London?
Talking about the stipend, it was very helpful to have because we didn't get meals on the weekends, but it was totally enough to cover meals on the weekends. Food in London, I was not expecting this, but especially if you cook, food in London can be very, very affordable. And yeah, meal times can be very fun with the stipend that you get.
I totally agree with Len. There is Morrison's close, so you can go buy the food to a supermarket, and that's very affordable. So it definitely was enough for the food. I even saved some money to go visit some musicals and shows that happened in London. So I think that's very helpful in general, and it's definitely possible to save some even outside of the food, even though it's not for going out to eat at a restaurant every meal. It's definitely enough if you cook sometimes for yourself.
And talking about outside travel costs, if you're in London, flights to other places in Europe are pretty cheap. So those are definitely doable on a college budget. And also you can stay in hostels, or if you're splitting Airbnbs with some other people, they tend to not be too much. So I felt that traveling outside of London was also very doable on a college budget.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I think that the travel outside of London was one of my favorite parts about being in Europe. And when we're talking a cheap flight, under $50. So it's so doable, and you can be so creative with your money that you're being given. So sometimes you might eat spaghetti for a few nights, but hey, you'll be in Barcelona next weekend. That's my mentality. Now there's this thing. I don't know if you know about them, but they're called meal deals. You can go to yes. You can go to a grocery store and you can get usually a sandwich, a drink, and maybe a bag of chips, all for under £10. So it's super affordable to eat, even if you're not the biggest cook.
Yeah, good tips that way. And sometimes you have a roommate that likes to cook, and so you can do that too, or you might be the one that likes to cook. So I know that some students will try to cook together for those meals that aren't included with the meal plan. All right, so the last thing I wanted to cover before we go into the Q&A is just thinking about what it's like to come back to campus after spending the fall semester in London. This is probably the biggest question that I get from students considering London is what's the transition going to be like? What should I expect? And so just a reminder that the London First Year Experience is a fall-only program. Students do come back to campus in the spring. And I feel like almost as soon as you leave for London, the campus is already preparing for you to come back in the spring semester. And there's really kind of two sides to kind of coming back to campus. One side is more of logistical stuff. So registering for classes, signing up for housing, kind of those types of things, figuring out where you're going to be for winter break before you come back for the spring semester. semester. And then that second part, which is kind of less tangible, I guess, is like, what is that transition going to be like? How am I going to adjust to campus? How am I going to meet the people that were on campus? So things like that. So, figuring out that piece of it. So, I want to again ask the experts, that has already been through the process. What was the transition like to campus, and what kind of tips would you have for students to make the most of that experience coming back to Skidmore in the spring semester, or maybe even the first time on campus in the spring semester?
For me, I thought that going to London in the fall was so much more easy than coming back to campus in the spring. It just felt kind of daunting to me. But once I got to Saratoga and kind of got into the swing of things, I realized that I had nothing to really be worried about. You have that base of friends, and you've created some really close friends when you're in London. So when you come back to Saratoga, they don't leave. They're still your friends, but you'll also make a ton of other new super cool friends, and you guys can all be friends together, and it's so much fun. But it was definitely very scary, but I knew that it was going to get better, and it definitely did. And I had some kind of friends that I'd met in classes, and now that I'm really close with them. So I've branched out and I've made a ton of new friends, but I also am super, super close with the students that I was in London with.
I can talk. Oh, sorry, Len.
No, you go.
I can talk a little bit more about the logistics. So I felt really supported in London when I was choosing my housing and my classes for next semester, because being really close with your Scribner seminar professors, they'll really tell you like what classes they think the teachers maybe would push you more or stuff like that. And I definitely felt like I was supported from that side of things. And also, when you get back, your peer mentors are going to be there. So this year it was me and Annabelle, but we definitely love putting on events for you guys and really keeping the London bond close, but also helping you guys branch out. If you need anything, we're always going to be here. We'd love to do like coffee chats, stuff like that. So you really are still supported when you get back to campus, and we can be like that bridge to helping you guys build community.
So I totally agree with Paige. You have so many support systems coming back onto campus. And, part of that support system is like what Annabelle was saying, all the friends that you made while in London. So you're all going through the same sort of confusion transition together, and you'll all be able to help each other. If one of you has questions, chances are you're just going to text the giant, massive group chat, and then everyone's going to help you figure it out because you're all in it together. And also, you have time. So it makes sense to feel like you're in a rush or maybe falling behind, but join a few clubs. You're going to make so many friends and meet so many cool people. And it's scary, but it's something that you can totally do.
Yeah, also to add on to what Len said, like we definitely still are active in our London group chat, and we often have lunch or dinner together. And I think two of my best friends that I have here now, I met them in London, and my roommate as well. I have the same roommate that I had in London. So I think that the relationships that you build there will very much support you here. And then there are so many opportunities here to just branch out into clubs and into organizations or whatever you might be interested in. So I think there was really not a problem. Especially for me, I felt like it was a very seamless process of integrating. Maybe it was even easier for me as an international student to integrate into Skidmore, because in London, even the people from the United States were kind of outside of their comfort zone because they were out of their country. So we were all kind of out of our own country in a way. So it was maybe easier also to share that experience, I would say.
Yeah, so that's just like all good examples about the kind of support structure that you'll have at Skidmore. So some of them are more formal, some informal. There'll be orientation activities with the first year experience with my office. We have the London Peer Mentor Program, which is a sophomore, junior, or senior who's already studied in London. Usually there's 2 of them that will then plan events during the spring semester to help kind of integrate you back to campus, to show you what the resources are. To really kind of be that touch point if you need it. And then you have everything that's offered on campus to try to get involved. So, clubs, activities, things like that. And there are also the other cohorts of London students. So the sophomores, juniors, seniors that are on campus and ready to welcome you back and back into the Skidmore community. So there is a lot of stuff to really support you with that transition. All right, so let's go into some questions. I'm sure there's quite a bit going on over in the chat, Gabby.
Yeah, I'm seeing some really, really great questions in here. I'm seeing a few questions just about the classes over in London. So one I'm seeing is, what if none of the course options in London align with my major?
That is a great question. So the courses in London, it's okay if you don't see your major up there. They are really designed for students to kind of get started at a small liberal arts college and kind of take a variety of things. A lot of the courses are fulfilling the general education requirements that are required for each student, so you can make progress on those. And then even if your major isn't represented there, it's something that you can start when you come back in the spring. And most students are declaring their major as a sophomore, so you shouldn't necessarily be behind even if you don't take anything in your major your first semester. Some courses or some majors in STEM or in the sciences that maybe have like sequence courses like biology and chemistry. I know those departments have become more flexible over the years, that students can actually take the second course that's offered in the spring right when they get back, and maybe that course that's offered in the fall they would just take sophomore fall instead.
I think this is a really great question. When you take classes in London, are you only with other students in the Skidmore London program, and are they really small classes?
Yes, and yes. So all of the classes in London, you're with other Skidmore students. There may be other students not on your program, like studying at the program center, so in other classes, but all the courses that you would take would just have Skidmore students in them. And then typically the class size is about, I would say, around 15 students, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on the size. Calculus is always a little bit smaller for sure.
Great. And what if your advisors in London do not align with your major?
Anybody want to comment on that?
I can answer this. For our advisors, there was one from the psychology department and one from the political science department. And at the time I was doing the London program, I wasn't really interested in either, so I just picked one randomly. And now he really convinced me that I actually can enjoy politics. And so now that's my major, but it really doesn't matter if they're not with your major at all.
Yeah, and the Scribner seminars are designed to be interdisciplinary. So sometimes students pick something that's not, it's something new they haven't ever taken before. So it doesn't matter if they're not your advisor. And then when you get back to campus, if you know what you want to major in, you can declare early, even before your sophomore year, and then you'd get an advisor in your major. But most students will declare their major sometime sophomore year.
Great. This is a good question. Having such a small group of you in London, does it ever feel too small? What do you do if you don't like one of the people there?
It's not that small. I mean, I didn't have any issues with anyone, but I think that if you were to have an issue, you wouldn't have to really see that person so much unless you had a class with them. I mean, your classroom in London is huge. You can be anywhere, everywhere, all at once. And it doesn't feel that small. I mean, definitely I had some people that I was super, super close with, and some people that I'm still learning new things about and I'm becoming closer with now. So it's definitely a small group, but you will gravitate towards a smaller group of people and they will become your closer friends, most likely. But I don't think it's too small at all.
I have to agree with Annabelle. It's a small group in the way that it's going to be close knit, but your social group in London is really going to end up being as big or as small as you want it to be because you are in this massive city with so many people. If you want to go and meet new people, you can totally do that. We had a group of our London kids that we would just go rock climbing every weekend. We ended up meeting some local Londoners, made some friends. And so, yeah, there are so many opportunities to make friends in London, even if they're not in the Skidmore group.
Great. Awesome. I feel like this one may have been kind of answered, but is it easy to make friends outside of the program when you return to campus in the spring?
Yeah, I mean, I had no problem with that. I'm an outgoing person, so maybe that's a different story. I'd love to hear if someone who is a little less outgoing would want to chime in on this. But I love just talking to people from my classes. I love joining clubs, and by doing that, I've made a ton of friends that were not in the London cohort, but I'm still super close with my other London friends. I didn't find it too difficult at all. You know, everyone, while they have been here on campus, they've only been on campus for the same amount of time that you were in London. It's only been 4 or so months. They're still really new at this whole college thing too. They want to meet new friends, and chances are they've kind of established some friends from the first semester, but you know, they're also looking to branch out as well. So everyone is super eager to make new friends, especially in your first year and even into the sophomore year as well. I mean, honestly, I meet new people and make new friends almost every day. So I would not say that it's too difficult at all.
Yeah, and if I had a piece of advice for when you get back, it would just be to send that text to ask someone to hang out. Because I actually made a lot of my friends that way. And after we became friends, they were like, yeah, you texted me so out of the blue. It was kind of random, but that's how we became friends. And it's just take that leap. You have to put yourself out there, but in the end, it will definitely be worth it.
And even if you're not as much of an outgoing person and maybe like um trying to do that first text is a little bit intimidating, you are going to end up just meeting a lot of people in classes or if you do join clubs and even through other London students or other friends that you make, you know. You're going to meet your friends' friends and then make new friends that way too.
So great. So we have 2 minutes left. We're getting a lot of really, really great questions coming in the Q&A. If we aren't able to get to your question today, I really, really encourage you to reach out to myself and or Kendra. But let's take 1 or 2 more. I think this is a good question. What is the roommate selection process like?
Students will fill out a housing questionnaire after they're accepted, and they'll put in their preferences, and then the program will match you up based on that. So it's usually a pretty good process. Not always a perfect match, but usually have some things in common.
Awesome. Great. And I think this one might be a good one to close on. What makes the London program different from other study abroad options?
Sorry.
Len, you go ahead.
Go ahead. Yep.
I definitely feel like it has to do with all of the support you have while in London. You're still able to get sort of that small college feel with like you get super close with the CEA Kappa staff and teachers, and you have that Scrivener seminar advisor, and you have your close-knit friend group. So you really are so supported while in London.
I was just going to say how it differs from studying abroad your junior year is when I went to London, I didn't know Skidmore yet, so I didn't really have anything to miss. But now going into my junior year, I'm going to go abroad again. I'm definitely going to miss the campus, and it's kind of a harder decision of, do I stay on campus or do I go? If you just go, then you don't know what you're missing yet.
You're never going to get to like recreate the London first year experience. From what I know, I mean, I think Kendra can definitely speak more about this. I'm planning on going to Madrid in the fall, and it's a Skidmore program, and I think that it's kind of close, but it's not going to be the same in terms of that support system, in terms of like stipends and having Scribner professors from Skidmore going to London or your abroad destination with you. There's so much support. It's basically like Skidmore just transplanted into London on a much smaller scale.
Yeah, and I think also that it's different in the fact that you're um, with other people from Skidmore that you can continue to be friends with afterwards on campus. Because I think many of the study abroad experiences are that you're going to just get to know the people for the semester, and then you might have to leave them, and it might be hard to see them again. But with the people that you get to know in London, your classmates, those relationships can last, like can continue on campus, definitely.
Yeah, I do think it really is the program really is about building Skidmore community, but in London. And you're doing things as a group, even though you can kind of do your own thing, you know, on the weekends and that kind of stuff, but you really kind of build a very strong Skidmore foundation. I think going as a junior, you're doing things a lot more independently. You might be the only Skidmore student on the program that you're choosing, but I think, you know, like the rest of the panelists said, it really does kind of create that Skidmore bond, that Skidmore community with the group.
Awesome. Great. Well, again, thank you so much, everyone. I think this was a really, really informative, helpful session. Again, if we weren't able to get to your question, please reach out to myself, Kendra, or one of our wonderful panelists. We'd be more than happy to chat, answer any other questions that you have, and keep in touch with me if you do have questions about enrollment, where we are with our spots. But yeah, Kendra, anything to add?
Just like Gabby said, if you have any questions, let me know. I am available to do like Zoom appointments if you have more questions, or if your family has questions, or your guidance counselor has questions. I talk to whoever has questions, but I'm also a good resource to then connect you out to students that have already done the program, whether it's these fantastic panelists or other students that are on campus. And I did just want to thank Vojta, Paige, Annabelle, and Len. Thank you for taking the time to share your experience. It's so great to hear more about what it was like for you in London and coming back to campus. So thank you again.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, everyone. And again, keep in touch if you have any questions.
Thank you.